Hello, I'm Dr. Ravindranath Bhajotia. In this series of lectures on microprocessors and microcontrollers, I'll be discussing about the interrupt structure of 8085. 8085 is a 8-bit microprocessor. So as the external devices can communicate with the 8085, there is a provision of interrupts in the 8085. Through this mechanism, the devices can request 8085 for certain services. The list of topics that we'll be discussing in this video session are: 1. What is an interrupt? 2. What is the interrupt sequence? When an interrupt occurs, what are the different sequence of instructions or steps that are executed within the system? 3. The types of interrupts as far as 8085 is concerned, and the interrupt structure of 8085. Well, we are very much familiar with this saying, "May I come in?" or "May I come in, sir?" or "May I come in, ma'am?" Basically, we are seeking permission so that the person on the other side of the door, he can suspend his current ongoing job and listen to the request of the person who is or who wishes to come in. This is a very fine example of an interrupt. Because we are interrupting a person, we are requesting. If the person permits us to come in, that means he wishes to get interrupted. But if he doesn't respond, we simply wait outside. We can't come in his or her room and interact with him. So this mechanism of interrupt is clearly clarified through this slide, wherein a device or a person wishes to interact with the controller, the person who is on the other side of the door. As far as the systems are concerned, we have a well laid down procedure, exactly the procedure that is in the physical world. The same actions or steps of sequences have been replicated when we talk about the interrupts in the microprocessors or any other computer-based systems. As we know, a microprocessor or a microprocessor-based system or a computer or any other computing device. That device is basically working when we say, means the processor, the CPU or the NPU that we call them, are busy in fetching, interpreting and executing those instructions. Some of the program is running in the background even when we see our desktop or when we see the screen of our mobiles. So whatever the display that is visible on the desktops or any other computing device, that is because it's something on the background running, executing, some program is running. And it is only when you fiddle with the system, then we say we wish to interrupt the system. We do not want the system to continue its normal sequence of execution, but we wish the system to do something else for us. And that is all nothing but an interrupt. As can be clearly seen in this diagram, we have a main program running in the system, and at some point of time, there is some request from the external device. These external devices are normally slow speed devices. They are not operating at the speed of the processor. So there is no need for the processor to look for the devices, but in such cases, we expect the device to intimate to the processor or to request to the processor whenever the device requests it or needs the service of the processor. So whenever the device needs the service of the processor, it will intimate to the processor in the form of an interrupt. So once the system recognizes, yes, that is a valid interrupt for me, what exactly the system has to do? The system has to go to a particular ISR, interrupt service routine address. So this address is required to be known to the system at that time. Where in the memory, the system has to find out the interrupt service routine which can take care of the needs of the interrupting device. That means in a raw language we can say that whenever some service is being requested by the device to the processor, its solution is lying at some place in the memory, which is called as a ISR, interrupt service routine. We need to suspend the current ongoing task, that is the main program execution, and take the program to the starting address of the ISR. The execution of the ISR will then go on continuing till the last instruction in the ISR, which is nothing but the return from the interrupt, RETI. And when such instruction as RETI, return from the interrupt, is encountered, that is an indication that the services of the device have been completed. And then the main control has to be transferred back to the main program. So this sequence of operations whereby a device interrupts at some point, interrupt the program or the system. So this very immediate next address from where the system has to resume the operation is required to be saved in the program memory or in the stack memory, so that the system knows where it has to return back. This is something like this: when I am giving a lecture and somebody knocks at my door, what do I have to do? If I have to listen to the person, I have to pause my video, listen to the person who is entering, solve his query, and then when he goes back, I return to the place where I had paused, so that the sequence of activities is seen by the user as one continuous sequence. So this is all that the sequence of steps that take place on an interrupt occurs. So the sequences are: one, whenever an interrupt takes place, whenever the device is requesting the services of the processor, in those cases, one, the next address has to be saved on the stack, and the ISR address has to be loaded into the PC, so that the program execution can then continue from the ISR till the ISR ends. And once the ISR ends, then we return back to the saved address and then continue our process that was happening earlier. Then discussing about the types of the interrupts. In 8085, the interrupts can be defined or categorized in different types. As far as the broader way of telling the interrupts is that we have a hardware interrupt and a software interrupt. The hardware interrupt are through these lines. Some externally initiated signal will send some signal on these lines, some request on these lines. And since an hardware is interacting with these interrupt lines, we will call them as off-type hardware. And whenever the interrupt request is through some kind of code, some kind of instruction, we will call such type of interrupt as a software interrupt. So the hardware and software means the hardware are caused by the external initiation signal, whereas software interrupts are as a result of software interface. For a hardware interrupt which are received on these lines, a request from the device, the processor executes the ISR, whose address is either known to the 8085 or supplied by the interrupting device. It should be clearly noted that I mentioned 2 points: that whenever an interrupt occurs, the ISR address is either pre-known to the system or it is being supplied by the interrupting device. We'll come to this point in the next slide. As far as the software interrupt is concerned, the software interrupts are executed on executing of the instruction RST_n, where n is an integer value, positive integer value from 1 to 7. So the control then transfers to an address, ISR address, which is nothing but the n times 4. So if I say RST_n starting from RST 0 to 7, so if it is RST 0, it is 0 into 4, that is 0. So the control will get transferred to the address 0000. If it is RST1, then the ISR address is 1 cross 4, that is 4. Then the address will, or the control will get transferred to 0003, which is 4, starting from address 0. If it is 7, then the jump will be made to address 7 4 that is 24. The hardware interrupt are on these lines: TRAP, RST 7.5, RST 6.5, RST 5.5, and the INTR. And there is an acknowledgement pin for the INTR. Whereas the software interrupts are RST 0 to RST 7. Coming to the topics on the addresses, these interrupts can be maskable and non-maskable. Maskable means we can mask it, we can stop the interrupt to happen. And non-maskable means we cannot stop, we have no control over such interrupts. So a maskable interrupt, these interrupts can be enabled or disabled by EI and the DI instruction. The non-maskable cannot be disabled. Once they occur in the system, their execution will definitely take place. Maskable, these interrupts can be individually masked by the SYN instruction, but non-maskable cannot be masked. Maskable are 7.5, RST 6.5, RST 5.5, and INTR. And non-maskable is a TRAP. We discussed here that either the address is known, ISR address is known to the system, or it is supplied by the interrupting device. So the interrupts can be of type vector or it can be of type non-vector. A vector, the ISR address is known to the system. Whenever an interrupt occurs of such type, the 8085 will automatically take the control to the ISR address because it knows the address of the ISR. Whereas in the case of non-vector, the ISR address is not known to the system, hence it is required by this interrupting device to supply that address. TRAP, RST 7.5, RST 6.5, RST 5.5 are some of the vector interrupt. Non-vector example is INTR. Priority for executing these instructions are TRAP, RST 7.5, RST 6.5, RST 5.5. Then priority for the non-vector depends on the daisy chaining of the software priority. The structure for the 8085, as seen in the diagram, where the 5 interrupts INTR, TRAP, RST, that is 7.5, 6.5, and 5. Seen from this waveform, starting from the RST 7.5, as can be seen here, that this type of interrupt is an edge trigger interrupt since it is active on this particular edge. RST 6.5 is a level trigger. RST 5.5 is a level trigger. TRAP is level as well as the edge trigger. And INTR is a level trigger. Let's understand these different types of interrupts. Just taking at a glance, and we'll discuss in detail in the next slide. The RST 7.5 is enabled when the RST 7.5 signal gets a signal from the external device. It is cleared by sending a clear signal on the flip-flop, which is nothing but on reset, and when RST 7.5 interrupt is recognized, then it will be disabled. Through the mask mechanism, the control gets transferred to 003. So is the case with the RST 6.5 and RST 5.5. Trap is not maskable, hence it is directly sent to the address 003. And the INTR is also seen, which is enabled by the EI, disabled by the DI, disabled by reset, and whenever the interrupt is realized. So whenever now the INTR line is active, we can see that the INTR address is being assigned. A non-vectorial interrupt example is that of the INTR. Whenever a signal arrives on the INTR pin and it remains active, stable or level triggered, and also if previously EI had been enabled, there was no DI, no reset of the signal, and the interrupt was not recognized, in those cases the RS flip-flop will get set. So when Q is equal to 1 and INTR is equal to 1, that is level triggered, we say that the interrupt is recognized and the control gets transferred to one of the vectors. Then coming to the vector interrupt, RST 7.5 is shown here in the example. It is a edge trigger type of interrupt. It is reset by RST, there is a reset and interrupt recognized. It is enabled when the RST 7.5 gets a high on the edge blockage. It is also disabled by the DI pin, DI instruction enabled by the DI. Whenever the mask pin is active, then that is in this case whenever the mask is low, so this particular interrupt will be masked. Trap is a non-maskable, so it is edge as well as a level trigger whenever a signal on this pin comes. So it is seen by the system by the highest priority. So to summarize, we have seen the hardware and the software interrupt. We have seen the interrupt as maskable and non-maskable. We have seen the interrupts of type vectored and non-vectored. And meaning of vectored is the program gets transferred automatically to certain address, which is known as a vector address for the interrupt. Non-vectored is there is no mechanism with the 805 to transfer the control to ISR. Device has to supply its own address for the address so that the control can be transferred to that address for service. Well, that's all in this video. See you more in the